Well, thank you everybody for joining us today. We're going to be talking about whether you should make your business, get more from your business, but also talk about what we mean by return on investment. And it's one of those intangible ideas people talk about, but really don't know what it means to create that desired end result, where you want to be at when you finish the game, or where you want to be next year. And, a lot of people think that they have to wait a long time for ROI, and I want to show you that you do not have to and how to get there. So, thank you for the great introduction, Pascal. We specialize in finding the red flags that make business growth really challenging. We've been doing it since 1990. We know how to improve company valuations as much as 2 times, even up to 4 times more than when we met the company. We've been doing it a long time, so we know where to look and how to fix the problems. We do have clients, even in the Caribbean, and we work across all kinds of industries, from construction to healthcare, tech, predictive analytics. And we get many of our clients from M&A advisors. Those are the companies that they'd love to sell, but they're not ready to be able to sell yet. We also get them from private equity groups that want to drive the value of their portfolio, from wealth advisors, talking to CEOs who don't know how much they need for their future and don't know if they've got a secure financial situation or an unsecure financial situation. And we're going to dig into that a little bit. And of course, previous clients, we are so lucky to have the people that we work with. We love our clients, and it's been a great ride so far. So let's dig in. What are we talking about? Well, it may surprise you to learn that you are the #1 investor in your business. Even if you don't have investors, you are an investor. And I want you to wear that hat for this entire presentation, meaning take off your CEO hat or your whatever role you play in your business, and think about the fact that your business could be an asset. So in that case, when we think about return on investments, we get them from assets, right? But ROI is also about how you feel about the personal experience you're having driving your business forward, and the tangible returns like money, and the intangible like motivation, validation, and peace of mind. So these are the 4 topics that we add up as return on investment. So the first one is money. And our view is you should be reliably taking home salary and paying yourself dividends. Dividends are what you get paid for taking the risk of owning a business. Second one is motivation. You started a company to make a difference. Is that still driving your motivation? And validation. How satisfied are you with how your employees and your clients respond to your leadership? And then peace of mind. Are you content with the future you're heading towards? And is that going to give you what you actually want and need? So we're going to dig into all 4 topics. But first, we're going to ask a poll question. Pascal, can you bring up the poll, please?
I will. I just launched
you.
it. Can everyone see it?
Cool. So which return on investment opportunities do you want more of in 2024? Do you want more reliable and predictable profits? That's the money. Or motivation? Want to make more of a difference in the lives of your customers, maybe even your employees, your other stakeholders? Do you want more validation to improve how you lead the business so it inspires your culture and improves performance all around? Or do you need peace of mind? I want to know my business is going to give me the financial peace of mind and security I want in the future. So yeah, answer those. Which one's ringing your bell, making your heart sing? Do you have a sense of yearning? And last couple of minutes on that poll question. And then we're going to ask poll question number 2. Do you have investors in your business beyond yourself? Thirty more seconds to complete. Are you getting answers, Pascal?
Yeah, I'm getting answers.
Okay. So let's close the poll. And what did you discover, Pascal?
So
Oh,
can you see the numbers?
yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Thank
Okay.
you. So 25% of you want more reliable, predictable profits. 75% want to feel they were making a difference in the lives of customers and stakeholders. Yes, that powers your energy. 25% want validation, 25% want peace of mind. Nice, we're going to cover all four. Cool. And what about the second poll question?
50-50.
50-50. Some do, some don't. Well, I want you all, I'm reminding you all to think with your investor hat on as we proceed into the presentation today. So I'm going to show you what it means to generate more return on investment for all of those areas and reveal the top solution so you get better returns. And then we're going to have time for questions. So questions, put them in the Q&A. I'm going to answer them at the end so Pascal can navigate the questions at that time, but put them in as they occur to you. And then I have a gift for you at the end of the presentation. So stay tuned for information on that. Okay. And we answered that question. But I want to tell you why I asked you the question, do you have investors? So remember, you are an investor. Investors hold assets. So what is an investor's top expectation with respect to investing in your company? And this is the third poll question. Do you have that one, Pascal?
Yes, I think I made a mistake and I set it up so that everything was asked at once. So let me just pull that
That's
back
okay.
up.
Just
Yeah.
think about this. Oh, you've got it.
Yeah, I got it right
Yeah.
there. So
That's the poll results that I'm looking at.
yeah, exactly. So
Okay, I see. So the results of this, I want to talk about what they are. Get paid back one day with interest. Well, an investor invests in equity, not debt, and doesn't get paid back in interest. An investor only gets paid back when the asset sells, right? So be associated with cool people doing amazing things. Yes, sometimes that's a top reason for an investor to make that, especially VCs. But VCs also want a return, and they want to be involved in a company that's making a difference. Because when you're making a difference, you're probably growing. You're probably doing something that brings people back for more. And that's crucial to prove that you have the demand to drive the business forward. Because without demand, it doesn't matter what you want, there is no return on investment. So the offerings have to be what your target audience is looking for in the moment they're looking for it, and in a way that brings them back and tells some friends. We'll be talking more about that. Some want to be involved in the day-to-day decision-making, to stay in control of the investment. If you're a shareholder, doesn't mean you have a functional role in the business, doesn't mean you should, it means you could. But that doesn't give you automatic carte blanche to be involved in the day-to-day control of the investment. And if you have investors on your board that think that, you need to have a different kind of conversation with them. Certainty that the investment is appreciating because it's becoming a saleable asset that has a high probability of being liquidated one day. Well, that's the reason to hold an asset. You buy a stock today for $100, you hope it's going to move up 30%, 100%, so that you can get a return on investment. Because once you buy the asset, you don't have that cash anymore. It's not sitting in your bank. It's sitting on a piece of paper at your broker. And the time you make the money is when you sell. So if you think about your business as an asset, the time you make, running the business, your return is your salary and your dividends. The time that you sell the business is when you add that third return on investment. We'll break it down further. So let me just skip this slide. So we're going to figure out what is important to you. And the reason that it's hard to find out what's important, sometimes it's really difficult for owners to know, well, I need this, I need that. There's so many things pulling at your priority list. And that's because you don't get the time to ask yourself the right questions. about what's important. So congratulations to all of you for being on this webinar, because now you're about to ask yourself what is important. So we're going to tackle all four, but we're going to start with money. So money return on investment means predictable profits, not just profits, predictable, meaning at the beginning of 2024, you can predict by the end of 24 what percentage you're going to keep, what percentage of the dollar you bring in you're going to keep. You take a big risk owning a business, you should be paid back for that, taking that risk. You know, and salary is what you should receive if you're in a functional role in the business, like you're dealing with operations or running marketing or running sales. That's to do that work. But dividends represents the reward you get for taking that risk. And as a personal investor, my hope for you is that you are reinvesting what you have left from salary and dividends in other assets so that you diversify your sources of wealth and it accumulates. And that's how you manage personal financial risk going forward. But to be able to afford the salary and reliably receive dividends, you need to manage the business so that the profits are predictable. And there are many ways to do that. So here are 8 solutions that contribute to predictable profits. And we're going to zero in on gross margin and on wise pricing power and on managing to goals, which means keeping expenses constant and less than the target percentage of revenue, which I will explain to you shortly. But there are also 5 other ways to generate predictable profits. So what you're looking at is your income statement. You know, revenue minus cost of products sold, your gross profit, your expenses, the profit you're left with, the taxes you pay. And what you're left with is got to be split between working capital that you need for growth next year and dividends, that payment that you hope to receive for taking the risk of running the business. And over here, we've got the metrics. These are standard metrics that I like to use as a benchmark to tell me how well a business is doing. Now, every business has a variety of metrics, but in the basic model, you want 35%. So that's $35 over the 100 in revenue. So it's always a percentage of revenue. So this is a great way to read your income statement. You want a minimum 35%. If you don't have 35%, it's hard to run a business. If you keep your expenses constant at 15, you've got 20 bucks left, 20 cents on the dollar. Another way to think about it. Some go to taxes, and then you've got 15 cents on the dollar left, or 15% to split between working capital and dividends. And of course, you multiply this by millions, and you've got some nice numbers there. 35% is what we have to focus on. So remember that number, because timing is everything when you look at your income statement. Here we are at the beginning of the year, but if you want to improve that return on investment, you don't want to start hoping for 35% right in January and end up with 25% at the end of the year. Because now what you've got left is 5 cents on the dollar. And, you know, we all know inflation's pushing up cost of products, cost of services, and maybe that's happening to you, but there are ways that you can plan to make a difference to get back to 35% or even more. So what are we going to do? So we're going to give some love to gross margin in 2024, and it's going to be the best gift you ever give your company. So make it a goal and a project. Yes, it's a project. It's not just, oh, let's aim for 35%. But what you want to do, improve gross margin by even 1%. 1% can make a massive difference. Little goes a long way to get predictable profits. It actually will increase profits 6.6%. Kind of magical. So if you've got a business with 5 million in revenue, that 6.6% can put another $333,000 on your bottom line. So think about that as we talk about the strategies that our clients use to get 1%, 2%, or even 3% gross margin improvement. And by making incremental adjustments across a number of areas strategically. And again, these are all scale-up projects, meaning you've got to put a team on it to be responsible for all the little things that happen to support getting that 35%. So some of our clients negotiate extra discounts with vendors that they sell a lot of, not all vendors, just the ones that they sell a lot of, because there's something in it for the vendor as well. Renegotiated the contracts. Maybe they got a better split with some of their subcontractors. They teach their team leaders. We teach their team leaders financial literacy. So your people know how and when the business makes and loses money at the gross margin level. And then they can start to see the things that come up as red flags and fix it as they happen. That's the most crucial thing you could do, because you don't want to wait until the end of the year when your accountant gives you your financial statement and you go, oh, we didn't make our 35%. That's not the time to do it. And so you've got to teach people how to spot the very things that get in the way of making that gross margin. Other strategies include raising prices or charge out rates less than 5%, not 10%, not on all things, but only on the most popular things or services bought by the least price sensitive target audience. Least price sensitive, there's tons of things that people are price insensitive to. Anybody's afraid to put that prices up, but they don't notice less than 5%, and especially the least price sensitive people. And then if you've got, if you make things, you've got design, you've got fulfillment teams, you're providing services, however you deliver your product, ask them to find the efficiencies that say shave 1% off the cost of products and services. And all of those things start to add up. And so, here, this is just using 3 of our 8 predictable profit solutions. If you put the prices up, $2, this is a $5 million company. $2 is not a lot, but it makes a difference. And you bring costs down by $1, your gross margin jumps from 35% to 38%, and you keep costs at less than 15%. Now, if you think about it, then we're not talking about growth in revenue. There's no growth here. And so costs are 15%. That number stays constant. The minute you start growing revenue, this number drops, 15% drops. Or it stays at 15%. You've actually got more money for costs, more money for your expenses. And so now your profit's at 23% rather than 20%, because we got the extra 3% from the gross margin initiatives. And now your profits are up 16% just from making those 3 little adjustments. And, before we were keeping 15 cents on the dollar, now we're keeping 17.5 cents on the dollar. So you decide as the investor, is that good enough? Not good enough. Now, I'm not saying that 15% is the right metric for your business. Every business has, a range somewhere between 4 or 5% on the dollar, like grocery stores and restaurants, all the way to 25%, like recurring revenue high-tech companies. So somewhere your industry is in that range. And I have the comparable information if you're curious about what your industry averages should be. But make sure that you remember that it's the little goes a long way. It can add 16% to your bottom line. Let's talk about motivation. And if you've got questions on money, put them in the chat now while you're thinking about it, and we'll get to them at the end. So you want to restore your motivation. A lot of you do. Return on investment comes from making a difference until one day it doesn't. And so we understand that motivation is difficult to find when you don't feel the energy for it and you've been doing something for a long time. And so what got you started, your big why that started the business, might not be the thing that's going to give you your big why going forward. But the problem is when you don't have motivation, you don't have the energy, and then you don't have the growth in your business. Or you don't have the energy to do all these things like fix gross margin. So we've got to dig into why. And so our ability to grow is directly proportional to our ability to entertain the uncomfortable. And when you're not feeling motivation, you are feeling deeply uncomfortable because you don't have the energy you used to have. And you can't just chalk it all up to age. So what's driving your motivation? Motivation is critical to understand. It's your sense of purpose. And your sense of purpose, let me go back to that. Your sense of purpose is how you go about making a difference. And when you see the evidence that you're making a difference, you actually create energy for yourself. But motivation is required to generate energy. So if you're feeling apathetic, it's because you've lost your sense of purpose. And asking yourself the question, what's my purpose now? You know, my business has been around for a while. Now what do I do? Now how do I make a difference? And things might need to change for you to feel on purpose again. So energy is what's going to drive the willingness to change by asking the right questions and then changing your thinking habits. So we're going to dive into brain science here. And because motivation comes from mindset, and your mindset is a choice. All our mindsets are a choice. When you think about what you do want, or are you thinking about what you don't want? And if you've been in it for a while and in stressful situations, often what we think about is what we don't like and we don't want. And whatever we focus on, we find evidence for. So here's how the brain works. There is an event. You got a line of stressed out people at your door, all needing something, and it's the same as yesterday. And you got a feeling about that, and it's not pleasant. You do have a choice about how you want to interpret that feeling, but most of us, when we're stressed, actually go into reaction mode. And the brain sees this as a repeat. The movie, here's the movie, I know how this is going to end. They're going to let more line up. There's going to be more victim stuff, more villains, more, and now they would expect me to be the hero, making it all better for them. And I don't want to do that. And you've got your 6-lane highway of habit, and the brain is well traveled. Those are all the synapse connections in your brain that give you the evidence that this is going to keep happening, and totally defeating your sense of purpose and your energy. And when we focus on what we do want and what we don't want and what we don't like, we get more of it. You give your brain an instruction, it's kind of like AI. It spits out evidence. And so what you've got to do is go back to the feeling and go, yeah, I'm feeling a bit defeated with all of this, or I'm feeling stressed, or I'm feeling angry or frustrated, whatever the feeling is, and go, how do I really want to feel? Because when we think about our desired end result, I want 2024 to be different, and I want to help our team focus on improving gross margin this year, or finding my motivation. And I focus on what it would be like to have more of that. Focusing on what I really want, more motivation, more sense of purpose, more making a difference. You get that. Your brain starts to look for the clues that give you the information to answer those questions. So how you program your brain is always a choice. And this is where you're going to find motivation when you get curious, you ask the right questions, and then you take action on the things that occur to you that would give you more motivation. These are choice points. So recognize that when you have a feeling about an event, pause at the choice point and decide, what do I really want? So the second part of this motivation piece is to remember your company's purpose. A company has to have demand for its offerings, and you're going to have to solve a recognized and in-demand problem for a specific audience in a way that keeps bringing them back for more, so that they will tell 2 friends. And so if demand is waning, that tells you innovation is required. Solving hassles that make innovation difficult or make the customer experience hard, that's required. Because as the world changes, how we present our offerings, how we attract our audiences, and what audiences we have also change. And so here are some of the strategies our clients have used to restore purpose and motivation. Well, they've created a new desired end result for the business, kind of like modernizing, what are we here for? And they think about the blue ocean. Perhaps you've heard about the blue ocean strategy. It's where you don't have to compete amongst all the red ocean people that are doing things the same old way, having to discount their prices, thrashing around for a limited pool of clients. When you think blue ocean, you're going to narrow your target audience, and you're going to add more X factors. Whoops. Sorry, keep moving my mouse. X factors are the very things that enable your team to deliver a memorable customer experience to your clients, to your customers. You remember restaurants where the waiter comes back and asks you after the food's delivered, how was your meal? How's it tasting? And then they come back and check again to see if there's anything that they can fix or do for you. Those things are memorable. You also remember the waiter that never came back and is grinning at you with the device to get your money, hoping for that big tip. I mean, how we solve problems for our customers is how we generate more demand. So do you need a new desired end result there, or do you need a new desired end result for yourself? Sometimes you're not working to your strengths, but you got to wear that functional hat and it's not a fit for you anymore. And you're not fresh in it anymore. And if you actually thought about the best interests of the business, you'd fire yourself and hire someone that had way more of what that role needed. And you move yourself into a role that you do want, thinking about what you do want, not what you don't want. And fixing something meaningful. By the way, on the previous one, we've had many CEOs come to this position and go, yeah, I want to hire a CEO. I don't want that role anymore. Not my strengths. I want to go back into operations. I want to go back into sales. I'll report to a new GM, a new president. Sure, because I understand why I'm doing it. I'm not doing it for power. I'm not doing it to show I have leadership. I'm not doing it because I own 100% of the company. All those reasons are irrelevant when you come to think about what motivates you. And you want someone that's also motivated to do an incredible job for you in the role that you don't want to do anymore. So that's an example of fixing something meaningful, but also you might want to fix your customers' top 3 hassles. What's it like to work with your company? Stand in their shoes. Where is it difficult? We have one client right now that's never gone back to any of their clients they did, $1 million projects for and go, how was it? What was it like working with us? And now they're going to go back and ask. And the minute you ask, of course, you want the waiter to do something for you. You want a better dinner. You want more sauce. You want something. So when you ask, you have to be willing to solve the problem. So solve for one of them. Why one? Because they're going to take focus. This is an organizational project to solve for that. And you need people focused on the one thing that's going to generate a lot of returns for your business. 3 focuses, everybody's divided, no one has time for it, and the work doesn't get done. And, you got to start asking for feedback. Did we get it right? All of a sudden, customers are going, hey, this is a cool company. They want to know how to make it better. And that's memorable because no one is doing it. So ask your questions in the chat for motivation, and we're going to go to validation. This is an interesting one. So people ask me, what is validation? Well, it's how people respond to your leadership and are inspired by it. And you're the leader, so people need to be mentored. They need to be encouraged. You're probably all parents, how do you generate more development in your kids? Well, it's paying attention to them in a way that inspires them to want to do more. So we all want the feeling of validation, but what is it? Well, let's understand what it isn't, because our world is full of examples of how to invalidate others, which leads to feeling invalidated ourselves. In our political climate, there's role models everywhere. Invalidation can happen by denying, dismissing, or diminishing someone else's perception of their experience and our own. And it leaves a lot of hurt and unengaged people in our workplace. Denying someone's reality about how they experienced a situation that was difficult, that's how they feel invalidated. To validate means accepting someone's expression and their perception of how something happened. Even though you had a different perception, your experience might be polar opposite, and other people's experience might be polar opposite. Everybody's perception is valid. And all you need to do is say, oh, I hear you. Wow, that's tough. We're not talking about agreeing. We're talking about saying, yeah, wow, we're having a compassionate moment because their experience was difficult, even though you think it shouldn't be difficult. You don't go to defensive. You can just go, wow, that's tough. And you hear, you take it in. Validating your teams helps build stronger relationships because people feel valued when their perception of what they saw and what they experienced was difficult. So when you validate, you lead in a way others can follow. Now that's kind of profound. Right now, you might be having an experience that you're leading, but people are randomly following grudgingly, with issues, maybe not in the time frame you hope for. So that's evidence that people don't feel validated. And it's essential to create a deep connection with another human being in order to be a good leader and to have followers. And you want people to follow in a way that helps you lead as much as they need you to lead in a way that they can follow. So the more you validate, the more you listen, the more you collect perspectives, the more you start to restore your motivation and energy. Because every time we validate someone else by going, wow, that was tough, tell me more, we validate ourselves. And even asking yourself to pause after a minute of daily stress in the office, to just ask, how am I doing? Well, not so good. I didn't like this day. It was super stressful. Wow. Listening to ourselves is so vital to finding that energy and that motivation. And then you're self-coaching, you're leading, you're providing self-calm, you make yourself more resilient. And what is emotion? What is the experience we're having? Well, it's just information. It doesn't mean anything about us. It just means today was difficult and I'm having a feeling. And at the choice point, you go, what do I want more of? I want an experience tomorrow where there isn't a lineup of grumpy people at my door. And maybe I just need to spend the day validating. So why does this happen? Well, or why it happens is what we just talked about. But what happens in your company when people don't feel heard or validated? Well, this is your company in this box here. And this is the promise starting at the top of the red line here. You say you're going to deliver a career, an offering, and this is the time and effort it takes to get things done with poor information flow. This red line is information flow. This is how this person does it. This person does it differently. And there's a holdup of information here. So now we have to go back and get that stuff. And then it has to circle around here and be looked at and then out the other end. And what was it we were supposed to be doing? And all the hassles that have collected and the disgruntled people because they didn't get what they needed. And this convoluted pipeline is actually a massive red flag to us. We hear the sound of this red line. In fact, I just did a webinar on the sounds of scaling up, seizing up. This is that. That's what it looks like visually. This is where you lose profits, you lose employee retention, all your customer hassles live, create stress for you, poor productivity, it's invalidation. This is not where you want to be, but this is most companies because the systems have grown and people change and stuff lives in people's heads and the way they communicate is based on an old job description and there's no agreements between silos for how information is going to flow from marketing to sales to operations to account management to accounting. Did we get a bill out? You know, what you really want is the straight line, because the time and effort it takes things to get done when you have good information flow is fraction of what it is. So these are the straight pipeline is green light. It means that things are a go. It helps you predict profits. It helps you keep employees because there's an ease with working with everybody. There's agreements with how information should flow. And this is where you get better productivity. And it's because you're validating your leaders, what they're hearing, you're validating your frontline staff, what they're hearing, what they're experiencing. So this is crucial. When we validate the perception and perspective of everybody, we hear the reality of the problem. In our world, there's what I think and what I saw and what I experienced, then what the team saw, all the thems out there, and what somebody I'm talking to, saw, and then our collective experience of how we interpret at the water cooler in the grapevine what actually happened. And the story changes to suit people's perception, and we try and enroll people in that collective perception. And so when you only pay attention to one of these, you can't get the full perspective on what actually occurred until everyone contributes. And this is where conflict starts. And conflict consumes 2.7 hours of managers' time every single day across North America. Bloody expensive. Bloody expensive. It's just So we have solutions for this. So this is what we focus on. In conversation, we focus on what is being said. And we ask people not to talk about who it's about. Because when we go down the who path, who did this, we're in blame and finger pointing. So when there is a problem, you ask open questions. Tell me more. You do not guess at what people are trying to tell you before they tell you. Listen, tell me more. Wow, that's difficult. Have compassion, validate their experience, not acknowledge the difficulty. Acknowledgement does not mean you're taking a side or agreeing. And here's what we do to get the full perspective out. Most of these problems come cross-departmental. If I'm working in my own department, I can control my environment, but the minute I have to interact with other departments, the problems start because there are gaps between workflow from one to the other. And this is what we do. We do a complaints into goal process. We bring teams together and they go bananas, coming up with all the reasons why things are not working. What is not working? They're not allowed to talk about who. And all those post-it notes collect together to say, okay, here's our problem. This is the complete reality of it because we've had everybody's feedback. And they're going to write their own desired end result and instructions for implementation. You're not doing that. You're participating with them. But collectively, how do we actually want to make this real? And now everyone knows how to lead in a way others can follow because they've all been part of communicating what's not working and drawing up the solutions to make it work more effectively. And it's a very powerful process. It's how we turn around companies that, are not growing, and we get them 2 to 4 times more valuation. It's absolutely essential if you want to increase capacity and growth at the same time, because both of those things can get expensive. So put your questions in the chat for validation, and we're going to move on to peace of mind. So do you have peace of mind about your future? And, we can all be intentional. Yeah, we really want this. We really want that. But it's about examining what's important and why. So if you want certainty and financial security, you have to ask yourself, should I turn my business into an asset I could sell one day, increasing the probability that I could get a return on investment from selling my business? Well, this is a complicated question, and you have to consider all of these issues: your risk tolerance to fix those red flags, the energy to grow to the next level, your ability to lead change, validating all those different perspectives. And what if, you do all that and there is no fire? How are you going to manage the risk? Sometimes we come to the edge of all the risk we've ever known about a particular topic, and suddenly we've gone too far. And that is an awful feeling. It's like dropping in an elevator, your stomach goes into your throat. And it's what we try and do is help people understand their risk tolerance by talking about risk in various different topics. So you know what your edge is and you know how to get up to it, and that's enough. Some people never discover that until it's too late. And how much ambition do you have? Is there a lot more demand out there that you could bring your way? And how much bigger do you want? Some owners want to start acquiring, but to what end? You grow by acquisition, you grow organically. What's the desired end result? And then you've got your personal financial situation. What have you been doing with your predictable dividends, that salary you pay yourself? Are you preserving it? Are you reinvesting it in the business? Are you diversifying into other assets? Are you accumulating wealth? And what financial needs do you have to take care of? So, and then the final area is all the uncontrollable variables that, business owners live in. Is your industry changes, demand patterns change, your target audiences change. And it's your ability to keep meeting these, the changes going on around you with innovation and working as a team, so that you don't feel like you're carrying the burden on your shoulders of solving all the problems for the business while paying everybody and keeping payroll going. So, and hey, time for life and family. Those are some of the questions that we ask our clients. But hey, before we go out there, what can we look at? What can we expect? Well, this is Canadian business owners' potential to earn return on investment from a business sale. And I want to tell you, there's for companies that have more than 10 employees, there's 1.2 million, roughly, that many companies in the country. Half of them are over 50. And you think, well, should they be retiring soon, or they're just going to close the business? I mean, what happens when you run out of gas to keep running your business? And every year since 2008, since I've been tracking these numbers, 70% of those same owners say, I'll sell within 5 years. And this teeny tiny little number here, 2,931, are the number that actually find buyers and close deals. Even though this many people said, yeah, we're going to do it. And you'd think this is year over year, 2,900. Well, I'll show you what the stats are. These are the average stats. These numbers don't change much. There's, 615 a quarter, 490 a quarter. Every year, there's roughly 2,000, 2,900, 2,500 businesses that sell. And during COVID, a lot more sold. And these are Canadian transactions. We're not talking about the US. And, it's dropping. So you look at this and you go, is this a buyer's or seller's market? Now, that's a confusing thought because there's actually $5 trillion with a T looking to acquire businesses across North America. And when I started helping companies become saleable in 2002, there was maybe maybe $1 billion. So there's more and more money searching to buy businesses, yet the same number keeps selling each year. And why is that? Buyers or sellers market? Well, it's a buyer's market because so many businesses are not run to be saleable, to be easily transitioned to the next owner, to solve a problem for an ideal buyer that helps them solve their growth problem. Remember, acquisitions are to get more growth. So if your company doesn't fit nicely as a puzzle piece into their business, they're not going to buy. I talk to M&A guys, deal makers all the time, and they say, we get 100 companies a year looking to sell. We pick 6 that we know the buyers will acquire. Why only 6? Because they get paid after the deal is done. So they're only going to put the type of companies in their consignment shop that they know will sell. And the rest, maybe we'll sell through a business broker, but not for anywhere near what we're talking about for 2 to 4 times what they're worth today. So here's how we help you increase return on investment for peace of mind. This is a program called the Decision Roadmap. It's a custom blueprint to become saleable and grow to the next level with predictable profits. So we help you understand what your valuation is today and your red flags from the buyer's perspective. We help you hone your goals so you understand your risk tolerance and the company's capabilities, your ability to manage change. And we help you figure out who the ideal buyer is today. Because the ideal buyer is always looking, because they need to make acquisitions when it suits them. And so when we understand the ideal buyer, we can help you become exactly the puzzle piece they're looking for. And that becomes your new strategic direction to increase your valuation 2 to 4x. And we help you create a plan, a financial model, and a critical path to get you on the way. And if you want further help in implementing that plan, because of course you guys all have functional roles, full-time jobs, we can run the project for you to build out becoming exactly what your ideal buyer is looking for. So put your questions in the chat on that topic. And here are the takeaways from today. If you improve gross margin even 1%, you make a big difference to your bottom line and your predictability, but make it a collaborative project. So you've got a team working on how to do that. If you want to revive your motivation, look at your company's purpose and how you make a difference in the role you're in. If you want more validation, listen and acknowledge yourself by asking, tell me more questions. How's it going? And acknowledge others and your own experience and perspectives. When you focus on questions about what is going on, and you eliminate the blame fest that starts when everybody tries to identify who it's about. And it's a systemic problem that we're talking about here. It's not a who problem. It's interdependencies across the organization that are causing the difficulties with getting the work done. So, and you want more peace of mind, uncover if you want more financial certainty and security, and then choose to explore a decision roadmap to assess if you want to make your business saleable. Because why? Because business buyers are looking for the thing that's solving their growth problem, and that's what you have to become to sell today. So let's get the conversation started. My gift to you, send me an email and I'm happy to hop on the phone for 30 minutes or on a Zoom call, and you tell me what your big ROI goal is, what thing you're inspired by, and I'll help you get started. And if you want to work with me more than that, we can talk about that too. But let's talk about what you want to talk about.
So we've
Pascal,
got,
go
yeah, so
ahead.
we've got one question here in the chat from my fellow tech chair in Winnipeg, John
Okay.
Wallace. So Brad answered the question because he's an exit strategist, but the question is, do you find that owners are resistant to hearing this, that it's their baby, it isn't the gem they thought it was? So that when they go in and do that analysis.
Yes, in the beginning, because but our first step is to handle reality. And so not everybody wants to handle reality. Handle reality is this is what the business is worth today, not because a financial valuation expert stamped 5 million on a piece of paper. It's because buyers are willing to pay for that. And value is in the eye of the buyer, not the seller. So you actually don't want to become attached to what the valuation is today. We use it to help you understand what the gap is. Here's what it might be worth today. Is it saleable? No, because you've got red flags that need to be attended to because this doesn't look like your ideal buyer. And when I start to deconstruct all of these things, that education helps people come to terms with the reality of the situation. And the goal is to set what the gap is. How much more do you want to be worth? How much more on the earning side? How much more on the multiple side? And let's see if we can get there and how realistic that is. And that is a change project. If you're willing to take the journey to make those changes, you might be able to close the valuation gap.
And so can you share an experience when you're talking to leadership and they're not open to making the changes, or maybe you have one person who is and one who isn't?
You mean when there's multiple owners?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I guess the best question that I ask is, okay, what is your desired end result? What's your end goal? In 10 years from now, do you want to be still in the same role, running the business the way it is? And will you still have the same energy to be running it? Or do you want to close it one day? Because that's an option as well. Of course, most businesses across North America right now are closing one day because they're not saleable. And all that value is just dissolving like an option on a Friday, third Friday of the month. Anybody trades options. Yeah, it's a nice cube melting. So the reality is, what do the desired end result? What's important to you? Do you want people to continue to work in your business? Well, maybe you need someone to step in and be a GM. Maybe the GM keeps running the business for you. There's other options other than selling, but it's still a responsibility that you have to keep taking care of. It's either a path to close, a path to transition, leadership, a path to sale.
And so we've got a question here from Babik, who's a funding expert and who's going to actually be doing a presentation next week. His question is, do you ever introduce mental health professionals as part of the process? You just hand them over to Rob, right?
We hand them over to Rob. Yeah. So Rob is our executive coach, my business partner. He helps people understand what they want out of life, and helps them understand how to get out of their own way to make that happen. And he has an MBA. He's working on his PhD in conflict on business to business sales teams. He's just working with 2 shareholders who are at odds with how to grow their business to the next level, and they're both getting in each other's way. So he disentangles conflict on shareholder teams and boardrooms. He helps business owners let go of the hats that they're wearing so that they think clearly and navigate on a path to getting more of what they do want and less of what they don't want.
And so if you're working with a business that's trying to recoup losses and they're still not cash flow positive. So they're sort of starting behind the curve. What would you suggest they do? And
We'd have to investigate what red flags are contributing to the losses. Often it has something to do with how you're pricing the value that you deliver to your customers. So pricing power is the ability to have the right target audience that gets so much from the way you deliver, not just what you deliver, but the way, the customer experience, the service, the implementation, the whole process of buying from you. And they choose you because it's got that much value, even if your prices are higher. And so often the reason you've got losses is you've got you don't have a unique value proposition and you don't have pricing power. And 80% of the time we can solve for that. Sometimes you're in a situation where, you know, hey, you're a healthcare professional, BC Health sets your rates, but there are ways to get more private pay opportunities, or there's solutions, but not always in determining pricing power. But it's often a target audience and unique value proposition problem.
okay, great. Do we have any more questions? No,
I've,
nobody?
I've got a question.
Hi, Brad.
Hi. How often do you find that the owners are the obstacle to their saleability versus the enabler?
99%.
So what's your strategy to get them past that? It sounds like your partner and some of the other work you're doing, but you know, how do you approach that is that really what the gap is about, is to give them kind of a compelling case to make change?
Well, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink. Most of the people that find us are already what we call aware. They have a situation and willing to learn, and then motivated to take the action necessary to make the changes in the business. I find that a lot of older owners are, you know, don't want to rock their own boat. And they think any change is going to make it difficult for them to run the business. And so we'll have a conversation about what they think they're going to do with the business. But a lot of them are in stasis. They're in status quo. They you know, it will fade away. That's what's happening to most companies across North America. Owners fading away and life circumstances catch up with them. And then one day someone else is left to sort out what the deal is. So, you know, all we can do is present the questions. What is your desired end result? Here are your options. Which one do you think makes most sense to you? And help them explore the fear that comes up when they look at the mortality of their business, their own discomfort with those kinds of questions, and to help them come to terms in whatever way makes sense for them. To find something that has meaning. And maybe it's, yeah, I know I might be 75 and I continue to run the business. Okay, then, as long as you know, here's what you're going toward. And if that's okay for them, that's okay for us. We're not here to you know, bang the drum of to become saleable. We want the decision roadmap is there to help people make an informed decision for themselves that works best. It's not just to say, okay, here's how you're going to become saleable and shove them down the chute. It's a choice, and there's multiple issues that come up in that choice. And we have clients that, you know, they went through the program, they did it, we helped them grow to the next level, and then they said, and I think I'm going to close now. That was enough. But at least they were able to make a decision, because no decision leaves a mess for others to clean up or for you to deal with.
Yeah, that 2.7 hours a day, that's a very interesting statistic. Haven't heard that one before.
Yes. Yeah, it's the Ombudsman organization in the US does studies every year on the cost of conflict and the lack of productivity and cost of performance, billions of dollars going towards dealing with conflict, because people are trained to focus on who is the problem rather than what are the systemic and interdependence issues that are making this difficult.
And I would suggest, I've lived a lot of my career in helping straighten this out in organizations. If there's anything going on in the business, whether it's growth, opening a new branch, you know, much change, 2.7 is low.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, thanks for saying that. You're right.
Awesome. Do we have any more questions? No?
But thank you so
Okay.
much for this. This has been great. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you everyone for attending. And for all of you who are not aware, we have an online course for business owners called Elevate. It's on zetacorp.com, and Lorraine has a lesson there as well. So it's an online course of video lessons from different subject matter experts. So go check it out. There's a 14-day free trial, and you can learn more from Lorraine. Looks like there's one more question. Oh no, it's just a thank you. So thank you so much, Lorraine. Thank you everyone for attending. I really appreciate it. Have an amazing day.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.